Men, the most devastating manipulation isn't physical control. It's the illusion of emotional intimacy that keeps you believing you found something real when you're actually trapped in a carefully constructed performance. Some women have perfected the art of simulating deep connection without ever offering genuine vulnerability, using the appearance of intimacy as a tool to maintain power while keeping their true selves safely hidden behind a mask of emotional availability. These aren't always conscious strategies. Many women learn these patterns from observing relationships around them, from their own wounds, or from discovering what works to maintain control without ever having to risk being truly known. But whether conscious or unconscious, the result is the same. You believe you have profound intimacy while she maintains complete emotional safety, and you don't realize the asymmetry until you're so invested that leaving feels impossible. Before we continue, hit subscribe, drop a like, and comment if you've ever felt deeply connected to someone only to discover that connection was entirely one-sided. Your story might help another man recognize the performance before he mistakes it for reality. Method 1. The trauma bonding opener. I've never told anyone this before. This method involves her sharing seemingly deep, personal information early in the relationship to create artificial intimacy and make you feel uniquely trusted. She reveals childhood trauma, past betrayals, or vulnerabilities within weeks or even days of meeting you, accompanied by, "I don't usually open up like this," or "There's something about you that makes me feel safe." This creates the illusion that you've achieved a special connection that took no time to build, which should be your first warning sign. The manipulation works because men interpret vulnerability as trust, and being trusted feels meaningful. When someone shares their deepest wounds with you, you feel chosen, special, responsible for protecting that trust. You're suddenly the person who succeeded where others failed, the man who made her feel safe enough to open up. This feels like evidence of your unique value and the special nature of your connection. But genuine vulnerability develops gradually as safety is established through consistent behavior over time, not through strategic disclosure designed to create instant bonding. Notice whether her revelations create genuine intimacy or obligation. Does sharing her trauma lead to mutual vulnerability where you both feel closer and more understood? Or does it position you as her protector, therapist, or savior while she learns everything about you but reveals nothing beyond that initial calculated disclosure? Real vulnerability is reciprocal and deepening. Fake vulnerability is transactional and static. Pay attention to whether you feel closer to her as a person or more responsible for her well-being. Watch what happens after the initial trauma dump. Does she continue opening up as trust genuinely builds, revealing more layers of her actual personality, current feelings, and present experiences? Or was that early revelation the deepest she ever goes? If months or years later, you realize you know nothing more about her real feelings, fears, or daily emotional reality than you learned in week 2, that initial vulnerability was a strategy, not genuine connection. The early disclosure was the ceiling, not the foundation. Pay attention to whether her vulnerabilities are designed to elicit specific responses from you. Does she share struggles that happen to position you in helpful roles? The protector who shields her from men like her ex? The provider who ensures she never experiences financial instability like her childhood? The validator who proves she's not worthless like her family suggested? Or does she share the messy, unflattering truths that don't serve any purpose except honesty? Fears that make her look petty, insecurities that aren't sympathetic, struggles that don't position you as a hero. Strategic vulnerability always has a function. Real vulnerability is sometimes just raw and purposeless. The psychological mechanism is exploiting your association between vulnerability and intimacy to create a shortcut to perceived closeness. By front-loading carefully selected disclosures, she manufactures the feeling of deep connection without the actual foundation of trust, time, and consistent behavior that genuine intimacy requires. She creates the emotional equivalent of a movie set, realistic from the front, but completely hollow behind the facade. You're responding to the appearance of depth without realizing there's nothing supporting it. The long-term impact is realizing years later that you never actually knew her at all. Those early revelations were the ceiling of her vulnerability, not the foundation for deeper intimacy. You shared everything, your fears, your failures, your dreams, your weaknesses, while she shared a performance. You believed you had profound intimacy because you felt so connected to what she revealed. But what she revealed was calculated to create bonding without requiring ongoing vulnerability. You thought you were building something mutual. She was establishing control by making you feel special while learning everything about you and revealing almost nothing real about herself. Method 2, the mirror effect. We're so similar, it's like we're the same person. This manipulation works by mirroring you so perfectly that you think you've found your soulmate. She adopts your interests, values, tastes, jokes, politics, and worldview, creating the illusion of effortless compatibility. But she isn't similar, she's adaptive. You're bonding with a reflection, not a person. It works because similarity feels like understanding. When someone shares your passions and validates your beliefs, it feels like home. But she's not sharing, she's performing. She studies you, then becomes your ideal. Notice whether her interests existed before you. Does she have real stories, history, depth behind her passions? Or do her hobbies appear the moment you mention yours? Real interests have backstories, adopted interests don't. Watch what happens when you change. Does she stay true to her own views, or instantly shift to match your new stance? If she tracks your opinions rather than holding her own, she's maintaining alignment, not authenticity. Pay attention to disagreement, or the lack of it. Do you ever hit meaningful friction, or does she agree with you on everything? Real people clash sometimes. Perfect agreement is a performance. The psychological trick is exploiting your need to feel understood. She reflects your identity back to you, so you fall in love with feeling seen, not with her. You're bonding with a projection she's reinforcing. Long term, the mask slips. Her real personality eventually shows. Different tastes, values, preferences, and beliefs. The person you thought you knew evaporates, leaving someone unfamiliar in her place. You realize you fell in love with your own reflection, not with the stranger behind it. Method 3, the future fantasy. Let me paint our perfect life together. This manipulation involves painting an elaborate, beautiful future with you. Kids, houses, travel, businesses, shared dreams, so vividly that you become emotionally invested in a life that doesn't exist. The fantasy feels real, meaningful, and inevitable, keeping you committed not to the relationship you have, but to the future she describes. You fall in love with the potential, not the reality. It works because dreaming about the future is natural. Shared visions feel like commitment. When someone imagines a detailed life with you, it feels like proof they're serious. But she isn't making plans, she's telling a story. These dreams cost her nothing, require no action, and can be changed or abandoned overnight. Meanwhile, you start sacrificing in the present for a future she may never intend to create. Notice if her future talk is grounded in action. Is she saving money, researching moves, discussing logistics, making compromises, or just spinning a pleasant fantasy that demands nothing from her now? Real planning is uncomfortable and practical. Fantasy is effortless. Watch whether the promised future ever comes closer, or stays perpetually 5 years away. If things never settle, you're never ready, and the magical future is always coming later. The vision was never a destination. It was bait. Pay attention to whose life changes inside the fantasy. Does the dream require you to change careers, move cities, adopt her lifestyle, and sacrifice your world, while she stays exactly the same? If the fantasy demands only your transformation, it's not a shared future. It's her ideal life built on your effort. Psychologically, the fantasy keeps you tolerating an unsatisfying present. Problems feel temporary because something better is coming. Hope replaces reality, and you stay because of where you think you're going, not where you actually are. Long term, you wake up to find none of it was real. No house, no kids, no adventures. Just years sacrificed for a future she never intended to build. You realize you invested your life into a mirage, and the only thing it produced was lost time, and the painful truth that you loved a story she never planned to make real. Method 4. The selective vulnerability. I'll share pain but never joy. This manipulation involves sharing only pain, never joy. She's open about trauma, stress, fear, anxiety, and past wounds, but closed off about her hopes, dreams, passions, and what truly fulfills her. It feels like deep emotional intimacy because she's being vulnerable, but it's a trap. Negative vulnerability without positive vulnerability turns you into an emotional caretaker, not a true partner. It works because pain feels more authentic and meaningful. Supporting someone through hardship feels important, but real intimacy requires both kinds of openness, wounds, and dreams. Sharing only suffering is actually emotional self-protection disguised as depth, because joy and ambition reveal far more of who a person really is. Notice what emotions she brings you. Does she come to you with sadness, anger, hurt, and anxiety? But never with excitement, pride, inspiration, or enthusiasm. If you know her struggles but not her passions, she's not letting you in. She's using you as a safe outlet for negative emotion while keeping her real inner world hidden. Watch whether you can name what actually brings her joy. Do you know her goals? What lights her up, what she's proud of, what she's building toward? Or do you only know her trauma? If you can describe her wounds but not her dreams, you're her emotional support system, not her intimate partner. Pay attention to how her vulnerability makes you feel. Do her disclosures create closeness or obligation? Do you feel like you understand her more fully, or like you now must fix, soothe, or stabilize her? If vulnerability consistently produces responsibility instead of intimacy, it's strategic. The psychological trick is using negative vulnerability to create bonding and dependence, while withholding the positive vulnerability that would reveal who she truly is. Wounds generate sympathy, dreams risk judgment. She gives you the kind of vulnerability that binds you, while hiding the kind that would let you truly know her. Long term, you realize you know everything about her pain and almost nothing about her actual self. You're managing her emotions, not building a partnership. You have closeness built on suffering, not connection built on truth. You know her darkness, but not her light. Method 5. The pseudo-depth trap. Let's have deep conversations about everything. This manipulation relies on endless deep conversations about philosophy, psychology, spirituality, and abstract ideas that feel intimate but reveal nothing real about either of you. She can discuss love, consciousness, trauma, society, and human nature for hours, yet never share what she feels, wants, fears, or chooses. The appearance of depth replaces actual emotional intimacy. It works because intellectual conversation feels meaningful. Exploring big ideas together creates a sense of connection and depth, but you can debate concepts forever without revealing anything vulnerable. You can analyze love without loving, talk about authenticity without being authentic. Notice if your deep talks ever translate into personal truth. Does she discuss authentic relationships while hiding her real feelings? Analyze vulnerability while never being vulnerable. Talk about behavior patterns without examining her own. If the depth stays abstract and never personal, It's not intimacy. It's avoidance wrapped in intellect. Watch whether these conversations lead to real understanding. After hours of discussing human nature, do you understand her nature any better? After analyzing relationships, do you know what she wants or fears in your relationship? If the deep talks never reveal who she is, they're distraction, not connection. Pay attention to what happens when you try to make the conversation concrete. If you turn theory into personal questions, how should we handle conflict? What's your experience with commitment? Does she answer or retreat back into abstraction? If she avoids anything personal, she's using intellect to dodge intimacy. The psychological trick is replacing emotional vulnerability with intellectual stimulation. The conversation feels intimate, but she remains hidden behind ideas. Long-term, you realize you've spent countless hours talking deeply about everything except her. You shared profound discussions, but not genuine connection. You thought you were getting to know her soul, but you were just debating concepts with someone who never revealed herself. Method 6. The manufactured crisis bond. We're stronger because we've been through so much. This manipulation creates or exaggerates constant crises, so you're forced to fight the world together. Family drama, friend conflicts, work issues, financial scares, health problems. There's always something urgent pulling you into an intense, united front. It feels like deep bonding, but the struggles are manufactured, escalated, or easily avoidable. The intensity is mistaken for intimacy. It works because shared hardship does create connection. In soldiers, teammates, business partners. But crisis bonding creates dependency and emotional intensity that feels profound, even though it's just shared stress. The relationship feels deep, not because you truly know each other, but because you're constantly surviving chaos together. Notice if peace ever exists. Do you have calm, simple moments? Or is there always a new emergency from her family, friends, job, ex, or threats that require your protection? If drama is constant and calm is brief, the crisis isn't interrupting the relationship, it is the relationship. Watch whether crises resolve or simply get replaced. After solving one issue, do you ever experience stability? Or does one crisis instantly give way to another? Family drama, then friend betrayal, then work chaos, then a health scare. If the cycle never stops, the purpose of the crisis is to maintain emotional intensity, not to overcome anything. Pay attention to escalation. Does she turn small issues into major problems? Interpret neutral situations as threats. Reject simple solutions so a manageable situation becomes an emergency. If she's uneasy during calm and thrives in chaos, she's using crisis to create connection she can't sustain in peace. The psychological trick is replacing real intimacy with adrenaline-fueled bonding. Constant external threats make you feel like a team without ever building genuine closeness or emotional depth. Long-term, you mistake exhaustion for devotion. You believe you're deeply connected because you've been through so much, but what you've actually endured is unnecessary drama that prevented real intimacy. Once stability finally arrives, you realize there's nothing underneath the chaos. No shared values, no deep understanding, just trauma disguised as love.